Hi Libra, this is going to be your reading for the last half of July 2018. In the other videos I did yesterday for the other sides, I did have a little bit of a rant and a rave. Sorry, I just knocked my camera there. But today is a new day, so I've decided not to go on any further about that. So, as I said, this is your reading. Please remember that the sign that has the most views over the month will get the bonus reading in August. So, Libra, the card you've got at the centre is the Page of Wands. Now, you know, the pages can be messages coming through, okay? So, it could be, you know, somebody coming through offering you something. Now the Wands is very creative energy. It can be exciting, it can be adventurous, it can be fiery. So something could be coming through, some message, something being offered. But, you know, the Page of Wands could also talk about you, you know, starting something new, having some new idea, some new goal, some new vision. See, the thing with the Page of Wands, he's got the excitement there. He's got the enthusiasm. He's fired up to start something new. But at this stage, he doesn't necessarily know what it is that he's actually going to do, how things are going to work out. He's certainly not feeling any burdens by what it is that he's thinking of doing or planning on doing. With the past coming through, we do have the Page of Swords. Now, again, this page, again, can be messages coming through. But the Swords is to do with communication. And the Page of Swords, you know, it's often referred to as somebody coming through to speak their truth. Now, again, it could apply to you, Libra, in the sense that maybe in the recent past you've needed to speak up and say something, but you haven't done so for whatever reason. And it may be that now is the right time. Now is the time when you need to speak up and say what's on your mind. Be that negative, be that positive. But it's either somebody else coming through to speak their truth to you, or you wanting to do that with somebody else. If it's somebody else coming through to speak their truth to you, then, you know, just be a little bit careful, because sometimes with the Page of Swords, it can be that energy whereby you may need to ask more questions. You may not be hearing the whole truth. And you may feel that you need to question. Now, the present, we've got the Knight of Pentacles. So again, the Knight is bringing something to us. Could be bringing, you know, some financial gain to us, something to do with our finances, something to do with work. As I said, the Page of Wands can be starting something new. So this Knight could be coming through to offer something new. But the message I always say with the Knight of Pentacles as well is there is a little warning message that, you know, as you can see from the picture, the grass is not always greener on the other side. So, you know, for some of you that may be thinking about leaving someone or something behind, just be double sure here that that's exactly what you want. But that being said, as I said, the Knight of Pentacles, he's a slow-moving knight. He's the slowest knight in the tarot. So it may be that there has been something that you've been waiting on. As I said, a new job, an increase in finances, something along those lines. And, you know, you may have been waiting some time for this. It could even be a promotion for some of you. But with that showing up, it's suggesting that now, again, may be the right time when this is going to come through. Now, in your advice, we've got the Ten of Swords here. So the Ten of Swords is painful, harsh energy. You know, it can talk about very cruel and spiteful words being said. It can talk about feeling very let down by somebody, stabbed in the back. Somebody that you may have least expected to treat you in this way. The only good thing is that the worst pain you can feel has been felt. It can't get any worse than that. It is a 10, so we're nearing the end of this cycle, but it's in your advice position, I think, really to advise you that it's time now to let go of this, okay? It may be time for you to speak up with that Page of Swords there. And, you know, to confront the person that's made you feel this way. But nonetheless, it's time now to let go of this. In your environment, we've got the 10 of Pentacles. So the 10 of Pentacles for me is always that family card. You know, we can talk about a couple. We can talk about you as a younger person who still lives at home. We talk about extended members of the family, where we can talk about inheritance, shared finances, shared property. It can be that support network of our family. But what I'm kind of thinking here is it a case for some of you that there's been some family issue going on? Has there been some arguments or conflict due to an inheritance? Be that money, be that property. That may very well be the case for some of you. I haven't got the Justice card on the table, but I just feel that that may very well be a message for you. That maybe you've been waiting for some inheritance to come through. Maybe there's been some legal battle or some issues within your family environment. But you know, if we're not looking or thinking the 10 of Pentacles may be needing to be in the reverse position, then it could be here just to suggest that when it comes to your family environment, you know, things are okay. Now, in your hopes and fears, we have the Chariot. So the Chariot is victory, and the Chariot is the card of forward movement, of moving on, of going to something new. Yes, it can be the card to do with maybe travel. The two Sphinxes in the front, you know, the light side, the dark side of us. Sometimes I think, you know, our head and our heart, but both need to be going in the same direction to get that victory and to get that Chariot to steer in the right direction. So, you know, this is not something you're fearing. This is something you're hoping for. You're hoping for there to be this forward movement here. Moving on maybe to something new, something better. Maybe some of you, you know, I think I mentioned this in one of the other readings I did yesterday. Maybe some of you, you know, if you are younger, are leaving home. But when we come down to your outcome, we've got the difficult energy of the 5 of Swords. And this is conflict. This is somebody that argues for the sake of it. Somebody that always wants to be right. Somebody that wants to win at, you know, at all costs. And the other people in the card, you know, they reach the point where they turn their back on them, on that man, and they say, you know, I've had enough. I'm not going to put up with this anymore. I don't think you're the one that's wanting to be the one that's winning here. I think you are the one that's finally turning your back on somebody. Somebody who is responsible for this 10 of Swords here. Maybe you finally being able to speak up with that Page of Swords. It could, as I said, very well be a member of your family, but by the same token, it could be a work colleague, it could be a friend. I don't feel that it is a partner in terms of a personal relationship. The next card we got is the Devil. So, you know, the Devil, it can talk about toxic relationships. It can talk about greed. You know, again, if we're going back to issues within a family environment, maybe to do with inheritance, you know, is the other person greedy? Are they all about the money? It can also touch on negative thinking, okay? Negative thoughts that you may be having about someone or a situation. The Devil can also talk about feeling trapped or tied to someone or something. You know, maybe in some way you were tied to this person we spoke about in the Five of Swords. And now, you know, you're going to break those ties and you're going to cut those ties and free yourself from this situation. And I just keep feeling it is somebody that you may very well be linked to within a family setup. The next card we've got is the Emperor. Now, sometimes the Emperor can be referred to as the father or the father type figure. The Emperor, you know, he rules his empire. He's very wise and he can be very good to the type of person to turn to for, you know, some advice, words of wisdom. But on a bad day, the Emperor can be very domineering and very controlling. Again, is this somebody that you've been dealing with? Is it a father or a father figure or somebody within your family environment that has been behaving in this way? But by the same token, is the Emperor here to suggest that you're taking these qualities on, that you are going to stand up for yourself, because the Emperor takes charge. He is in charge. And it could very well be, Libra, that now you are going to stand up for yourself and you're not going to put up with people, you know, who are bringing you down, who are, you know, maybe saying harsh things about you, letting you down, stabbing you in the back. The last card we got is the King of Swords. And I'm really taking this to be you. You know, you are of the swords. You're the air element, as well as Gemini and Aquarius. I don't know why I said Jeba. But the King of Swords, he looks for clarity. He wants to understand things better. He uses the sword to cut through to the truth, to speak his truth. You know, he doesn't take any nonsense from anyone, the King of Swords. And I think that's you. I think there's been some issue here that you've had, either to do with an inheritance or a family member, or it could be work for some of you, but something along those lines. And, you know, now is the time, I think, for you to stand up for yourself. Now, the card at the bottom of the deck is the Four of Swords. So, you know, the Four of Swords can be, you know, putting those swords to one side, not communicating anymore. See, the thing with the Four of Swords, presumably we've come from the Three of Swords, which can talk about sadness, heartbreak, grief. And now we're at that Four of Swords where, yes, we need to put our thoughts to one side. We need to try to recuperate after going through a very stressful and painful time. You know, we're putting the swords to one side because at this moment, you know, we're not wanting to communicate. It could be here to suggest that there has been a break in communication between you and another individual. But the Four of Swords also can be just needing that time out. You know, if we've come from that Three of Swords and we've got the Ten of Swords here, we're talking about a painful time, a painful situation. Now, your card from the Psychic Tarot really pretty much backs up what I've said, and it is stand your ground. You know, and this is like the Seven of Wands, you know, where, you know, you've got to maintain that higher ground. You've got to speak up for yourself. I don't think the Page of Swords is talking about somebody else. I think it's coming through from the past, suggesting that maybe in the past you should have stood your ground. Maybe you should have spoke out to someone or a group of people, and you didn't, and now is the time to do that. When it comes to relationships, love relationships, your romance oracle is make the effort. Great love is worth taking the steps you're guided to take. So, as I said, I don't feel this reading is talking about a personal relationship. I really don't. I feel it's more talking about, you know, family, possibly work here. But the Romance Oracle card is saying to make the effort. You know, great love is worth taking the steps you're guided to take. So, you know, that may apply to somebody when we're talking about personal relationships. So Libra, that does conclude your reading. Thank you so much for watching and take care. Bye. Hi Libra.